Hi, welcome to Wrokdown. I'm Wendy Stapleton. Well, in 1971, I heard a song on the radio that certainly changed the colour of my day. The song was Eagle Rock. The man himself, Ross the Boss, is here with us, and I'd like to say welcome to Wrokdown.
Thanks very much. It's great to be here. My debut on Wrokdown.
Your debut on Wrokdown.
There's always new things to do, which is wonderful.
And you certainly don't have trouble finding new things to do.
Well, you do have a bit of trouble, actually. You know, I have to force myself.
Do you?
To keep my eyes open and my options open. I mean, if you do that, then things come to you. That's what I've discovered. If you close yourself off, they don't. But
okay, let's start at the beginning, which is always a good place to start. You were born in Melbourne?
Yeah, I was born in Melbourne, in the Bayside suburb of Hampton. Well, at the time when I was growing up, there was in the 50s. And I went to Hampton State School. It's still there. I drove past it this morning. I was having a look. It was like, wow, that place is still there. It was quite a great place to grow up. And there was a certain kind of, you know, something in the air about like, for some reason, the beach and music and all of that somehow seemed to go together in that neighbourhood. So
something was happening down there.
It was, yeah.
Absolutely. Your brother, Bruce?
Yeah, my brother Bruce is an artist who became an art teacher, and he's worked in the education system all his life.
So were there just the two of you?
Yeah, just the two of us, a small family. My grandmother could play the piano, you know, they went to church and everything. There was like church music, and my mother was a trained singer.
Oh, was she?
Who gave it up to when she got married, and to raise her kids and stuff. But she would go and join whatever the best choir was in the area. Sometimes it might be a Catholic choir. It was a local Church of England, you know. And she got me and my brother into that choir because they had like boys in the choir as well, so boys sopranos and things. So through that, you know, being dragooned into the church choir.
Did you have to save yourself?
Well, see, no, I realised later that this had an effect, and it's great. You know, parents do guide you into these areas. It's like, you've got a voice, let's go down the choir. Yeah. So you join the choir. You got to go at those days twice every Sunday because it's morning and evening services, and dress up in these costumes and collars and all this kind of stuff. But what you learn is how to sing harmonies. No, this is your part. You stick to that.
Absolutely.
You know, and then these people will be doing that. There's altos and there's tenors and there's bass voices, and you've got to sing your part and be there in time and in tune, and you know, not deviate. And so you get this ear, which I think I had naturally anyway for harmony, and also it taught me about the commercial value of music because they were on Saturdays quite often there'd be a wedding. And they'd hire the boys to sing, you know, and so get up in the choir and sit in your normal place and sing whatever the wedding songs were. And at the end of it, you get like $1 or something, you know, or 10 bob in those days. And you go like, wow, you get paid for singing. This is a really good thing. So I never had any qualms about that when
You were on to it straight away.
When it was like, let's get when we got a band together and go play the local dance. Oh, yeah, we get paid. That's great.
So that's sharp because so many kids, you know, start off, they don't care what they have to do or what they get paid. They just want to do it, and they'll do it for nothing. They'll do it for nothing.
Well, I would do it for nothing. If you start off, you do it for nothing. But you know, when there's the expectation you'll get paid, you go, well, yeah, pay me, fine. I don't have a problem with that, you know. And sometimes when you say that about new acts coming up, I'll do anything. I don't care about the money. Well, you should care about the money because at a certain point, when you get to here, you know, there'll be other people siphoning the money off and you won't get any.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't ever get onto that.
No.
Well, not ever.
Well, I was a bit, you know, I was, you know, still prey to a few sharks and wolves, but that whole connection between, you know, making money and getting your just reward was never a problem with me.
That's fabulous. So you went from the choir to forming a band?
Not really. I guess I got sort of, you know, you enter a period of around 12 where life becomes more complicated. You know, you start going to a secondary school, but some of the things I had been doing, I continued to do at secondary school. I went to a place called Haileybury College in South Road, Brighton, and they had, you know, they put on like Gilbert and Sullivan and things, and then you had to sing the hymns every day at the school assembly. So it was this kind of seamless change into that.
You weren't in the footy team, were you?
I wasn't very good at sport. At the footy team, I remember going. I remember going out. I don't know what you were supposed to do this stuff. You were supposed to be in the footy team and the cricket and everything. I remember getting out in the football oval and going, "Gee, this is really big." And then some kid ran at me and knocked me over. You know, so I went, "I don't like this."
Don't like that. No. Yeah.
So, but I was still already interested in music, and around that time, if you remember. But I started going to Harvard Secondary School in around 1960. And around that time, there was this kind of pop and rock. Pop had started to absorb the wild rock. And this always happens when the underground, wild things go mainstream. So Little Richard was sort of fading out and, Jerry Lee Lewis and that. And you started to get all that Philadelphia stuff of, Avalon and Bobby V and all that. Some of it was really good, but it was more formularized and not as kind of cool. And so there was this out of that there became this kind of then there was the folk thing, right? So there was a folk movement going on,
and especially your side of town.
Yeah, and it had social kind of overtones to it, and there was also a rootsy thing about first traditional jazz, as they called it. Yeah. And blues music. This was all sort of going on around the same time. And so I started my, I'm inquisitive person, and my dad had a huge jazz collection. And as a little kid, they'd have parties or something Saturday night, I'd be going, I wish they'd stop playing that music and roll over and go to sleep. But it all kind of filtered it's filtered into my head so much that I could actually pick out, that's so-and-so playing the trumpet. And that's, I got tuned into what was going on.
Yeah.
And I used to pull out my dad's old 78s and I'd go, what's that? Albert Ammons and Pete Johnson. I put that on, had an old gramophone, big thing in my room. And it's boogie-woogie music. I go, that sounds like Jerry Lee Lewis, And then Bessie Smith records up, that blues music, that sounds like so-and-so.
So you could actually hear where it had originated
I made the connection and so what the effect that had was that the barriers around music fell away. Wrokdown. Some of the older kids in our school at Harbury were part of the Red Onion Jazz Band, which was the preeminent and very good kind of rough and raw trad jazz band that played at our local dances and ran their own things. And we went, wow, look at that! They've got a band and they're really good.
And then they went on to change over to...
Well, this is what happened, is that... And so around about 64 or something, the Beatles had already happened and then the Stones started happening. I started to get... I love the Stones and I love the Kinks and I love all these people, this sort of R&B bands, right? Manfred Mann, all this kind of stuff. And that's when I first formed or got into a band. And then we started playing around and the jazz dancers all were going like that, and the pop dancers and R&B dancers things were going up, and a lot.
It was right.
Eventually, the Red Onion guys, a bunch of them, formed the Love Ones.
I know.
Yeah. So they'd been an example to us, and then we became an example to them. It was a really nice kind of ferment.
That's a beautiful story. I love that.
A ferment going on. It's good.
What made you play the sort of stuff that you were playing? I mean, as you said, there was so much to go to. In a way, there were so many different influences.
Well, there was also TV. Like, I got to hand it to Channel 2 as being, the ABC, as being a sort of the station, even way back then, who would put on interesting musical programs. They had a show called, I can't remember what it was called, Hootenanny or something like that, and it had Cyril Davies and Alexis Corner had this band, a blues English guys who played the blues really well, and there were all these what they called folk blues tours coming through Europe, and so they'd have like all these incredible black guys, like Sonny Boy Williamson and stuff, as their guests, and then there was 6 O'Clock Rock on the ABC with Johnny O'Keefe. And you'd see all the local dudes on there. You know, come on, everybody, it's 6 o'clock. Oh, and then you go, you know, I'm a wild one. I'm a wild one. You know, the first real Australian rock and roll song ever written by Johnny O'Keefe and his band, and it became an international
hit.
You know, people were covered it all over the world. Buddy Holly came. I saw him on my first rock show. It was in 1958, I think. I got my dad to take me along with some mates, and it was Johnny O'Keefe, Jerry Lee Lewis, Buddy Holly, and the Crickets. I think that one show gave me fantasies about like, oh, it would be so great to be like leaping over on the stage and rolling on my back like Johnny O'Keefe and throwing my hair back, playing the piano like Jerry Lee Lewis, you know. It was like, I used to have these sort of daydreams about, you know, doing cartwheels across the stage and at Festival Hall, you know.
Nothing's changed.
Yeah, but that's right. But then the great thing was, you know, I went through all the things that I formed my bands and da-da-da-da-da. And not long after, like it would have been about 1965, I guess, I'm in the Battle of the Bands with the Pink Finks on that stage. You know, it's amazing how fast everything goes when you're young. You're just sort of packing things in, you know, and it all starts to happen.
So 65 Pink Finks?
Yeah.
You would have been
Well, I was
16?
16 and a half.
16 and a half.
Yeah.
And your partner in crime?
Ross Hannaford.
Ross Hannaford.
When I first met him, he was just about to turn 13. And I'd had a jam at a local band with my friend Keith Glass. He had a little R&B band, and I'd been practicing harmonica and was pretty good, you know, playing bluesy harmonica. I sat in with them. I didn't sing, just played along, and Ross Hannaford and his mates had this instrumental band. You know, it was all a lot of instrumental music back then.
Like
the Veggies and the Shadows
yeah,
and all of that.
Yeah.
So they'd played a bracket of those, and then afterwards, after I'd played a bit up, these guys came up. They were all little then, you know. Ross Hannaford is now 6'10".
Was he little? I can't imagine him ever being little.
He was like this, and sort of
no.
Yeah, chubby and everything, you know, and because he was like 12 years 9 months, whatever. He's still growing, right? So, and they said, "Oh, you play the blues harmonica. We want to play R&B too. You know, can you sing?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I can actually."
Because as you pointed out a minute ago, a lot of the music, they didn't have singers. It was the instrumentals.
Right. Yeah. So there was a lot of that, and so I went along to Ross Hannaford's garage, and there was this they already had a singer. And they said, oh, you come and have a jam, you know, and that was like, oh, you're in and you're out. And like the guy's there, and he's going, gee, okay, oh, well, if you really think so. You know, it's like, I felt like a bit of a rat, you know, it's like, oh.
That was another thing
It's a lousy way to do things, guys, you know. Yeah. And then in a very short time, I was like the leader of the band. You know.
And so it sort of took off.
Yeah.
Battle of the Bands. Was it Hoadley's
Battle of the Bands, yeah. We just did it for a bit of fun. And
do you remember who else was in that particular heat?
I can't remember, but there's a big picture of us that I've got, and somebody gave me a copy of it recently. Out of Everybody's magazine, colour picture. It's the only colour photo of the Pink Finks, I think. Takes up the whole page, and you know, we're kind of rocking on the stage, and we didn't win. One of the reasons we didn't win is because someone snuck into, you know how it is at Festival Hall, they got all those little dressing rooms. Okay, so there was zillions of bands all waiting backstage. Someone stuck in, I swear someone came in and went tweak, tweak, tweak on our guitars and put them out of tune.
Oh,
so we're a bit out of tune. I'm going,
maybe one of your girlfriends thought that she was tuning.
Well, we didn't even have girlfriends then. We're so young, you know.
I actually heard someone say that their girlfriend had... All of the knobs were facing different ways, so she actually lined them all up. So
you've got to watch out for that sort of thing. But we were being courted by somebody. You know, there was some local manager people were like sort of trying to get us to be in the stable. So we actually helping to judge the show was Paul Jones from Manfred Mann, and I was this huge fan of him and Manfred Mann at the time, you know. And we went back to this party afterwards, and it was like, oh wow, these guys. We were just like, oh wow, it's Paul Jones and Manfred Mann.
All these stars are here.
Oh wow, you know. And they go, gee, you guys were pretty good. And we go, oh really? You know, it was like it's totally starstruck.
So young.
Yeah.
If you love the songs played here on Wrokdown Radio, we've been working on a new idea to help all these bands. We've got a net radio show, and all these songs are now available to you. You can find the links at wrokdown.com or just Google Wrokdown on Toot. Wrokdown, helping our Australian musicians.
Wrokdown.
Susan, 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 darling. Susan, 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 darling.
Everybody knows. Hey, Bob.
People were curious because Doc's been really unwell, and
Yes.
I don't want to dwell on that because I think that he's in recovery as far as I'm concerned. But Rock for Doc's coming up. That's up in Sydney, isn't it?
Yeah, there are two. The big one, the big
Yeah.
concern is at the Enmore Theatre on April the 15th, which is a Monday. And we chose a Monday so that we could be a little bit more confident that other bands would be available to play. But yeah, Doc's had quite an influence on the Australian music scene, and maybe broader than the Australian music scene.
Far broader than the Australian music
And he was a
scene.
fantastic performer. I would think he was one of the greatest frontmen ever.
And I second that. Because people think Bob Spencer, Angels, get the axe out, and
Yeah,
really,
that's not really
that's not you, is it?
No, that. I used to describe being in the Angels as just wearing a particular hat. That's not actually what I do. It's not really it's so not what I listen to. I don't listen to any music like that. I like pretty music. I like, I like Joni Mitchell and Alison Krauss, and I seriously like jazz music, a lot of jazz, especially the 50s stuff. Not that sort of jazz, but John Coltrane, Art Pepper, Thelonious Monk.
You've had quite an amazing career because you've been with Skyhooks too. You've played with Skyhooks. How did this all come about? I mean,
Don't know.
You don't know?
No, really, I don't know. I really don't know. I figure that I worked extremely hard at being a guitar player when I was young. I put a lot of time and effort into it, and I guess it kind of paid off in that respect. I knew the Hooks because Finch, the band I was in when I was a kid, we supported Skyhooks a few times. So I kept in contact with the band, and I used to go out and see the band. Name on the door, of course. And one day, short story, one day Greg called and said, "Red's not in the band, do you want to join?" And the Angels was a similar story. I had known them since they moved to Sydney in, I think it was around 1974. And again, it's something I wouldn't have thought I would get into, because that's not, even though I love rock, like, well, you've seen Raw Brit. I like The Who.
my favourite band is
Great.
Raw Brit.
It's a great band. I
Yeah.
love Raw Brit.
Well, we just love to hear you play.
Thank you.
We're really honoured that you gave us some time. We were going to catch up with you and Doc, but he was unwell.
That's right, yeah.
But we
Yeah.
will do that. We're thinking of going up to Sydney.
Okay.
We got a bit
What,
of
for
an
the
invite.
Enmore one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
if CC and I can do that, we'll be up there.
Yeah.
But we really wanted to hunt you down and get you on Wrokdown TV. So
Thank you.
we're really grateful. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We were kind of looking around for a record deal, and we went, we can't get a record deal. Okay, we'll just make our own record. So we went down, because we knew about where trad jazz bands used to, and it was this old picture theatre in Waverley Road, which later became an ABC. And I think they were called East Records or something like that. And we went in there, and they set up underneath the big balcony area, and we just recorded straight to tape, live, and there was a sort of a natural reverb from the hall, and old style recording, and we put out our own single. We did like 2 takes of each song and chose which we liked the most, and we put out our single on our own label. My brother designed the label because he was an art student, and it came out on Mojo Records. We decided to wanted to be bluesy, you know. Our friends bought the record, and then it started to get a bit of word of mouth, and it actually got on the charts in Melbourne, and we went, oh wow, we're on the charts, and suddenly we heard it on the radio, like on 3UZ. That was Stan Rofe.
Then you got the real record deal, or you just stuck with.
And then we did get a real record deal with W&G, and we'd made 3 singles for them, and none of them hit at all.
And was that the end of the Pink Finks?
Pink Finks sort of lasted a bit, and then the lineup changed so much we got a new name, and that was a band called The Party Machine. And
I know The Party
Machine. And that kind of
took off.
Well, it did after a while. See, a couple of years went by of nothingness, and then that mutated as well, and then we got at the point where we got Mike Rudd on bass. He was a guitarist, but we needed a bass player. He said, I'll play bass. We were actually kind of learning how to write songs. We'd gone from... Pink Finks was basically covering songs, and a couple of minor excursions into trying to write songs that were basically just the blues, you know. But in The Party Machine, it was like full on like original songs that didn't sound like other people's songs. Yeah.
Did you have anyone at that time that you particularly remember going to see in Melbourne that you sort of admired or wanted to be like?
The one that stands out for me, and for so many others, was Max Merritt and the Meteors, because they were a lot older than us. They were like 30, you know. And by that stage, I was like,
they'd been huge in New Zealand first.
Yeah, but they had been huge, but then they came here and they went this full-on soul thing, like Stax music, you know. I remember having this, and I've spoken about this before, having this kind of light bulb going on in my head. Yeah, because I'd by that stage got a job working for the public service while I kept this band thing going with Hannaford. And
I hope you didn't work too hard.
No, I did work. I worked. You know, I did have.
I'm being facetious.
No, I did work, and I did. You know, it was going along okay, but I was more interested in the band. So I had a phone, so I could like finish a file
and ring your manager.
Hey, I've got the gigs this week. You know, that sort of thing, and so things were going along. And of course, there was this idea of like, particularly at that time, as like you know, music is do something you do when you're young, rock and roll, and then you'll go off and become whatever you want to become. And a lot of people did that. They would like, you know, leave their band and then become a real estate person or whatever, you know, or a mechanic.
And for whatever reason too.
And whereas I didn't feel like that, I felt like I was still going forward on a slow upward gradient, and seeing Max Merritt and the Meteors and going, listen, they're older guys. They play really well. They're working all the time. See, it can be done. That's what the idea in my head went, you know. So that's why they were, you know, really important to me. And so an opportunity came along where I had the chance to go to England, and I had an invitation from Procession, who'd had some success in Australia, and they were over in England, and someone had left the band and they wanted to make a few changes. Brian Peacock, their bass player, was a fan of The Party Machine, and he liked some of my songs. He rang me up. He said, we're looking for a singer. And it just so happened it came at the perfect time, because I was getting pretty fed up with what was going on here. You know, we'd been ripped off and gear had been stolen. There's a whole lot of reasons why I was annoyed, and I was young and I wanted to get out of the country anyway. And I said, fellas, I had this invitation. And the other guy said, yeah, go for it. So I went off to England, started playing with those guys. Did it for about 6 months. We played a residency at the Marquee Club. Did a whole lot of things.
It's the opportunities.
It was like my little, you know, odyssey, going out and discovering the world and then coming back. During the year after I got back, which was 1970, early 1970, that's the time I started getting involved with, you know, the things that led to Daddy Cool.
Daddy Cool.
Yeah. Daddy Cool, I gotta be quite frank here. Daddy Cool wouldn't have happened without LSD. But Daddy Cool came on, played what we played. Instantly, everyone was like up, bouncing off the walls.